What's up, everybody, and welcome to week 99. Count it, week 99 of Shark Sports Radio. Alongside of me is Andrew George, aka Ticket. It's yours truly, Mark Loisel Jr., aka Shark, right here in the Ocean State. Thank you all for taking a dive in the tank with us tonight. As always, you can tune in using your Apple Podcast, SoundCloud, and or Spotify app, YouTube, on the Shark Sports Radio channel. You can also check us out on Twitter or X, wherever you prefer. I like to call it Twitter still, at SSR34_. And you can also find us on TikTok at Shark Sports Radio. First things first, play Underdog today. Deposit offers up to $1,000 in bonus cash. You also get a free pick as being a new customer. Please download the app. Use the promo code SharkSports to take full advantage. There are so many good picks out there that you can take advantage of. We will get into it tonight. We announced the BDE Belt Winners for Week 10. We do select our Underdog picks as well. And we'll get into 3 stunners of the NBA season so far. So without further ado, let's get into the BDE Belt Winners presented by Underdog. I'll take the reins here. My BDE Belt winner goes to Atlanta Falcons running back Bijan Robinson. Why? Because we have to give him credit where credit's due. Robinson had a very, very slow start to the season. I can't even imagine how many yards he had in total within the first 4 weeks. Like, it was minimal. And you got to give him kudos. He posted 116 rushing yards and, got to the end zone twice. And against the New Orleans Saints, I get it. Darren Rizzi is like now trying to be the hero of that terrible and disastrous, run defense of the Saints. So at the end of the day, it was nice to have, Bijan Robinson get some TDs and, have some success on the ground. Everybody looking at him coming out of college with the University of Texas, high hopes. Well, now he's a second-year player, and he's got to have a meaningful season. And I think we saw it, glimpses against the Saints, and hopefully that success can then carry over and only progress versus digress. So that's my BDE Belt winner of the week. It's Atlanta's running back Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, great pick. And, it's funny, last year, like you said, coming out of Texas, obviously people had high expectations for him. And then he doesn't have a great year. And it's like, well, Arthur Smith's kind of an idiot, not using him that much. Arthur Smith caught a lot of the blame, with that offense. Obviously, they fell behind a lot. Desmond Ridder and, whoever was back there at quarterback, Heineke. They struggled mightily last year. And now this year, starting the season, like you said, was slow. I feel like Tyler Algier, who's a very good back in his own right, more of your traditional, like in between the tackles guy. Good change of pace back, but he gets a lot of touches too for a backup back. And now you're seeing them, obviously like trust Bijan a little bit more. He's a big presence in that offense. And while it was, like you said, kind of in a losing effort, Bijan did his part, 2 touchdowns over 100 yards rushing. He balled out. My BDE Belt winner this week is Jamar Chase. Once again, a very strong performance in a losing effort. And, I said it to you, before we started recording, I feel like you could have gone with Burrow as well, who had an amazing, Lamar Jackson. Literally, that game was one of the better games of the season. And it was crazy. But Jamar Chase, 11 catches, 264 yards, 3 touchdowns. One of the best wide receiver performances I've ever seen. I don't think anyone's ever seen in recent memory.
Yeah.
Jamar Chase is my BDE Belt winner. Like I said, he had the Ravens secondary chasing him Thursday night. Kind of a dad joke there. I had to throw it out there. But, very strong performance. And, the Bengals, not been a great season for them. It's Joe Burrow. You could also make a case for MVP if the team was winning more. His numbers are insane.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Jamar Chase for this past week's belt winner.
Yeah, and I want to pinpoint what Jamar Chase is. I feel like he did have like just an unknown start to the season. You don't know if he was, dealing with, injuries or dealing with Higgins contract situation, like you mentioned. But it was funny. I was on the Disney cruise over the past weekend, a couple weeks ago, and I was looking at my fantasy app and I was like 100 points. Like what the hell happened? So I did watch like up until the third quarter, but then I obviously went to bed. But I look at 100 points and I had Lamar Jackson and then I had Jamar Chase. And I was like, wow, I think my week's made. Like I don't even have to
Yep.
score as much anymore. I think I won by
Yep.
like 90 points when it was all said and done. So kudos to Jamar Chase for getting me that win, and Lamar Jackson, yeah, Burrow going off too was nice to see. But I think what's important for the Bengals, like if we're talking outside of these prolific stats, is the success of the season. They haven't had really good like performances, and a big reason why is defensively. That
Yep.
defense is going to lose them games game in and game out until they figure out a different schematic approach. And until that happens, the Bengals will not win the division. They will not go successful into the playoffs for a couple of years out. So until that defense gets, readjusted, repaired, try to figure out what the hell's going on with that defense, they're in some trouble. And again, the offense is not the issue. Chase Brown's becoming a solid back too, a top 10 back. I drafted him
Yeah.
late in our draft because I was like, you know what? I'm taking a shot. I don't think Zach Moss is as good as people think he is, as advertised. And so I think Chase Brown is a good back, scat back, but also becoming a 3-down back now. So hopefully that defense can at least clean it up a little bit. I mean, your
Yeah.
offense is amazing, but your defense absolutely blows. It's
Yep.
terrible.
It kind of reminds me of like the early Colts years with like Manning, where and granted, those Colts teams were at least like they were winning, they were making the postseason, but Manning took forever for him to win a playoff game, and they
Yep.
were always known as like, hey, they got all these weapons. They got Aaron James, Peyton Manning, Marvin Harrison. They had
Dallas
a young
Clark.
Reggie Wayne,
Yep.
Dallas Clark. They got all these weapons all over the field, but they can't stop anybody. And they would always get
Yeah.
knocked out early in the playoffs. They would win 9, 10 games, get knocked out because their defense couldn't stop anybody.
Right.
But
Right. Yeah. Bob
all it takes is one, though.
Sanders.
But yep, Bob
Yeah,
Sanders can
but
never stay healthy.
I
You got
think
Dwight Freeney.
but I think at this point, Ticket, we have to understand that Joe Burrow wants to win. And if he's not winning games, guess what? There's going to become a change because he is the franchise cornerstone player that they want to build around. And if they can't stay, if they can't get off the field because of their defense, that's going to cause a lot of different strain when it comes to Bengals being overly worked throughout the
Yep.
year. And you're going to see it until that defense gets better. It's a fact. So let's flip over to the underdog picks. We'll break down quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. I'll start off at the top and I'll hand it off to you. No pun intended. Jalen Hurts against the Washington Commanders. We're going lower on the 270.5 combined passing and rushing yards. Here's the big key for me. I think we've seen Jalen Hurts kind of take a step back when it comes to his throwing mechanics. They are a very, very run-heavy offense with Saquon Barkley as advertised. He's been tremendous this year. He should be up for MVP conversation. But when you look at Jalen Hurts and his running ability, it sometimes takes over in a lot of different areas of the game in different quarters versus the throwing. And that's the key for me is Washington only gives up 183 passing yards per game. So that's a pretty strong pass defense. So I can see him going off with the running game with Saquon Barkley. And if you look at it from a strategy standpoint tonight, you want to keep Jaden Daniels on the sideline. And what better way to do it than create the running game, long drives, and find a way to make things happen with the tush push on fourth down when needed. So I can really see the lower on 270.5 combined passing and rushing yards for Jalen Hurts tonight.
Yeah, actually, I like that play and analysis a lot, with especially on the passing side. Obviously, you're risking with the passing and rushing that if he breaks a big run off, but they really only run them in design runs in short yardage situations. Like you said, the tush push, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, or like I said, very short yardage situations. I actually saw a very interesting stat. If this is for people that want to go on Underdog and consider like Jalen rushing or Saquon rushing, or receiving touchdowns, but Saquon's been tackled within the 1 or 2 yard line 11 times this year.
Wow.
On 7 of those next 11 plays has been a tush push touchdown for Jalen Hurts.
That's tremendous. That's a great stat. The tush push is undefeated, as you know. Like
Yeah.
it's severely undefeated. I think the only team that can stop it was what? The 49ers? No, what's the team that stops them every single time?
I remember in the Super Bowl the Chiefs had a stop on it, but they also gave up. I think they did it like 3 or 4 times that Super Bowl, and they
Yeah.
stopped them once, but
Yeah.
they also converted a few of them. So
Right.
it's almost like when Cam Newton used to do like the over the top with the Panthers, and it wasn't so
Yes.
much like they
Superman.
would push him from behind, but it was the Superman, Cam Superman
Yep.
dive. That was tough.
Yeah.
Tough to stop.
Brutal.
You're gonna like my underdog pick at quarterback. I got Tua Tagovailoa, 1.5 passing touchdowns this week. They are coming off a big win on Monday Night Football, returning home. They get the Vegas Raiders, who, for them traditionally, West Coast team coming east, them more than anybody. They've struggled in that spot.
Mm-hmm.
Although I will give them credit, they beat the Ravens this year, which is crazy to say that the Raiders came in to Baltimore and beat them, considering how good the Ravens have looked outside of that. But the Raiders, they struggle on that spot. They're bottom 10 defense when it comes to touchdowns allowed through the air. They're giving up 15 this year, which is, like I said, I think it's ranked somewhere like 22nd or 23rd. And then obviously, the Dolphins offense has, it struggled to come back to life completely. I know they had spots in that Buffalo game, as I'm sure you can attest to, but since Tua's return, they really haven't felt like it's the offense of old we've come to know under Mike McDaniel the last few years.
Yeah.
I expect them to get right in this spot against this Raiders defense.
Yeah, and if I may just touch on Miami real quick, I think the win last week, it was nice, right? But it wasn't pretty. I know people are saying, "Oh my God, Tua on the run!" Like he had what 1 or 2, plays on the run, and then he was trying to go in for that tackle and went in head first. Like, come on,
It's crazy.
There are so many stupid plays in that game. If you look at it, from the Jalen Waddle standpoint, everybody talks about how Jalen Waddle is like the 1B wide receiver, for Miami. But like, if you can't catch the ball on third down, guess what? It's a perfectly thrown ball. And if you can't catch it to continue the drive and get in the red zone and find a way to score a touchdown late in that game, that could have cost you. And the fact that defense played outstanding, like tremendously thought of throughout that entire game. And then Jalen Waddle finds a way to, bum a great throw by Tua. I just can't fathom this offense being successful without their key players stepping up. And Tyreek Hill's got to get open. As good as Tyreek Hill is, I understand there's double coverage, but that's also on Mike McDaniel and that coaching staff to figure out a way to get the ball to him. He got the ball twice. On 11 yards. 2 catches, 11 yards, and a touchdown. Give me a break. He's got to find a way to get the ball, and Tua's got to find a way to utilize that running game more. Achane's a really good player, and you got Mostert, and you got Jalen Wright, 3 really good backs. And you got to utilize those backs coming out of the backfield when you don't have the options. If option A is closed, option B is closed, guess what? Your next option is the guy coming out of the backfield. That's either going to be Achane or Mostert, where Jalen Wright's more of a run between the tackles. So I like that pick. I think the Raiders struggle. I mean, Christian Wilkins, no homecoming for him into Miami, but he was a key factor, key loss at that with the Raiders. So let's see if that impacts them defensively